Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You are listening to Will and Dave's. What the fuck? I fucked it up. I started off so well as well. So what? It's the Will and Dave show. That's all it is, isn't it? Jeez.
I don't know. It's like Sunday morning where I am. Why am I even doing this? Well, Vincent, Dave Judson's not here because he's useless and he's at a hockey game. So today, the role of Dave Judson will be played by Joshua Chin. We've also got Jeff Drake, we've got Randy Crosney, we've got Paul Jenkins. It is the Will and Dave show without Dave, looking at 16 Street Racing League Indy 400 qualifying. Mitch McCracken got pole position. We'll talk about that in a minute. Martin Miller second, Tim Holgate third, and we had a total of, let's have a look, 39 people who did a qualifying run, an actual time qualifying run. And there are some people who tried to do a qualifying run and didn't actually do it because they like doing things like hitting walls and stuff like that. And Dave, Chin, whatever I'm going to call you today, you really don't want to hit a wall at Indy, ever.
No, it's typically not advised. I don't want to be Dave. I don't want to be from Ohio. Like, come on.
Well, shall we just call you Chin then? Hey, Paul, would you like to be Dave?
Yeah.
I hate Ohio.
Is there anyone here who doesn't hate Ohio?
I'd rather live on the West Coast.
How are things on the
You
West
do
Coast?
live on the West Coast, Randy.
Good
That's what
morning.
I'm saying. I'd rather. I don't want to be in Ohio.
Ugh.
Game on, bitch.
So, Mitch McCracken, pole position, 4-lap average, 39.667, which is, what, 13 1,000ths of a second faster than the 4-lap average that Martin Miller was able to do. So, Mitch McCracken, once again, showing that he is kind of a bit of a god when it comes to at least qualifying at Indy, Paul.
It was quite an impressive run, and we haven't seen Mitch McCracken running at all, at least so far as I've been practicing. I haven't seen him at all, so obviously he's been off doing something because he came in and just basically dominated the place.
And you have a look at the 4 laps that he did. He did what? 633, 685, 692, 656. So very consistent as well. And it did seem to be that most drivers, having a look up and down the times, they did kind of fall off a bit after lap 1. Some guys were able to pick it up and then a little bit on lap 4. Other guys just faded a little bit throughout the entire run itself. So it's one of those things at Indy, your 4 laps are going to have to be different. And it just seems to be that Mitch was able to get time rather than having to chase time in that final lap.
Well, and here with the 4 laps, you got the out lap, the warm-up lap, and then the 4 laps. So you're effectively running, 5.5 laps. It's quite a challenge, and there's some treacherous conditions. 90 degrees, 98% humidity, wind from the north, which really, it doesn't sound like much. When you're right on the razor's edge, it really has a profound effect on the car. And so very treacherous conditions. So the fact that Mitch was able to keep the car into the 6s and show a relatively consistent run is quite the accomplishment, considering some of the talent that's out there struggling with consistency.
And only 3 guys overall, Chin, were able to get into the 39.6s for 4-lap average. 3 different teams represented. Once again, you've got Mitch McCracken, I say, pole position, Martin Miller for Banshee Autosport, and then you've got Tim Holgate in 3rd position. And if you have a look at the times between Miller and Holgate, only 1/100th of a second separating them. However, when you look at Martin Miller's times, you have to pay attention to that 4th, in fact, I say 4th lap, but arguably also a little bit laps 2 and 3.
Yeah, I mean, even the first lap, it was a 6 flat. I don't think any of us saw that coming, especially not on here. And he put together a pretty good run, and I think that first lap really helped him to be a little bit more conservative his 2nd, 3rd, and 4th laps, to where he didn't have to really push it and worry about hitting the wall like a lot of people did. I know myself, Matt Cook, we both made mistakes, and it ended up costing us because we were afraid of that wall.
And that turn 1 wall is like every driver's nemesis when it comes to Indy. And especially the way the wind's been today, is 5 miles an hour to the north. That car is going to push just a little bit.
Yeah, it doesn't help that we're running 3, 4, 5 miles an hour quicker into turn 1 than we are turn 3, and turn 1's already challenging enough as it is without wind. So that extra speed just made it 10 times worse, and you really set the car up for turn 1, and everywhere else you just kind of let it do what it was going to do.
And it's like Holgate in that third position as well. Now, as far as that championship battle between Matt Cook and Holgate goes, Holgate gains a little bit of an advantage by beating Matt in qualifying here. However, when you consider, I'm presuming free wide start, when we consider free wide start, you're going to actually have to argue that first lap, Cook's probably got the advantage on Holgate because the inside of row 2, I think, is better position to be in compared to the outside of row 1.
Yeah, I think so. I think the mindset myself and Matt Cook had coming into today was to beat Tim in qualifying and make up a little bit of points gap, but it's ended up working out in our favor to where we're not starting on that far outside because I don't want to be on the far outside in a turn 1 ever. Even with this weather that we have at 65 degrees, I don't want any part in that.
Will, just a quick note. This is from Dave. He said this was in practice earlier, I think yesterday. He said that we are not doing the 3 wide start. We're doing a double file for the start, then single file restarts for cautions.
That's pathetic. Thank you very much, Paul. Today, the role of Andrew King is being played by Paul Jenkins.
Over the line!
Well, yeah. But, Paul, you'll have a look, you know, the 3 main championship rivals, Holgate, Cook, Chin, within, you know, 3 places on the grid. It shows how these guys are having to bring it every single week. And you have a look at the difference between Cook and Chin, 1/1000th of a second. You have a look at the difference between all 3 of them, we're talking just over 2/100ths of a second.
Yeah, very closely contended for the qualifying, and I think this is really going to play out. You'll really see this play out when it comes race time, as Josh had alluded to. We're looking at a cold day, calm temperatures, overcast. You're going to see a lot of draft locking in this, so you know it's going to be difficult for guys to get away from each other, and it's going to be even more difficult for guys to try and pass each other because it's just everyone is just so closely matched at this point. So it's going to make for a very, very interesting show, and a lot of this is going to depend on how disciplined every racer can be around each other because you know, of course, Indy, very treacherous when you get side by side.
Oh, yeah. Although we have seen in practice people are able to run too wide the entire way around the racetrack, it all comes down to that discipline. And also, you talk about the fact that it is going to be a bit of a draft lock. It's at that point when you are going to get people trying to force that issue, try and run side by side for lap after lap after that, that they are going to lose the pack. And it's almost that case, yes, it's going to sound a bit boring. There are times all you need to do is just ride. Wait for the race to come to you rather than forcing the race early.
Well, I think you're going to see a couple of different, a couple of different mindsets. You're going to see guys that are going to try and get out of the gates real early, real fast, try and get up to the front for a couple of reasons. You want to try and avoid, obviously, being in the middle of the pack when it's that close together. It's just very difficult, and you know anything can happen. And there's not a lot of places to escape when there's an incident in Indy. So you really want to try. You know, you're going to find guys that are going to try and get towards the front, get away from all of it. You're going to find guys that are going to hang back, maybe just keep everything in front of them, and try and just kind of ride around for the first half and hold on till the second half. I do believe we're going to see several cautions in this race. So it could turn into a very interesting tactical challenge to try and figure out a strategy that works and modify that as the race goes on.
And that whole idea of, you know, modifying that strategy, you've got to really be arguably in the right place at the right time throughout the run. We are going to get the rest of the top half of the field qualifying results up on your screen in a minute when I figure out how to do pretty things with Excel and hiding windows and stuff like that. So it is going to come in like a minute, I promise. Whoa, not if I go that zoomed in though. But you have a look through the rest of the top 10. Brandon Trainer 7th. Some guy called Paul Jenkins. I don't know how he ever learned how to qualify. He's in 8th.
That
Jeff
was
What
Drake.
happened there?
Yeah, Jeff Drake is in 9th, and then Kerry Bettenhausen. In fact, I just said that completely wrong. It's Paul Jenkins 7th, Jeff Drake in 8th, Kerry Bettenhausen 9th, and Randy Cosner rounds out your top 10. There we are.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that. Of course, the way the rules work with this, the top 9 are locked into their positions and are safe, if you will, in their positions for bump day. So, very important. It is very impressive, especially when I talk about Kerry Bettenhausen. You know, he's had kind of a disappointing season. Well, not even kind of. He had a very disappointing season up to this point. So, to come out here and put down, a ninth place qualifying effort is really quite the statement. And here's to hoping that Kerry is starting to put it together and can really kind of put together a nice second half of the season and get back into the game here.
Well, with Kerry being my newfound teammate, I've been watching him throughout this entire all of our practice sessions and everything, and he is really motivated to do well at Indy. His family has such a great history at Indy. Todd's really motivated with Indy too. So I'd say out of all of our Impact Racing guys, Kerry is a real dark horse. He can come in here and possibly contend for the win.
And I say this every single year. There are people who are indie specialists. I always think back to Monica Clara Brand. Always one of the greatest people when it came to actually running a race at the Speedway. Not always the best in qualifying, but darn good most of the time in the race. And also, you made a very good point there, Paul, because, of course, last season you had the heartbreak of Courtney Terrell. And Indy can not only make your year, but it can also kind of really ruin your year as well. As I am going to put up some qualifying times up on your screen. 3, 2, 1, now.
Well, now I got to go find them.
It's okay. There we are. This is really high-tech stuff, and the fact that I've literally just put the Excel spreadsheet on your screen, so now you can see it. It looks beautiful. Beautiful.
If you can't tell, this is groundbreaking.
Yeah.
This is outstanding technological
I know.
technology stuff.
Never done before on the Will and Dave show, which is 4 p.m. Eastern, Friday on GlacierTV. Maybe with Dave, maybe without Dave, maybe with other people, who fucking knows. But, yeah, as I said, it can really make your season or break your season, Paul.
Yeah, and you alluded to it. The specialists at this track, you commit so much time and effort and energy to just trying to eke out the little tiniest bit of speed and advantage here, and I mean, it really is. Indy is, and you alluded to it when you put together that excellent piece about Indy. To the naked eye, it's concrete and steel, and it's nothing remarkable. It's just an oval track baking in the sun. But the legend of it, and just the history, and the men and women who have raced there, it transcends just a simple race. It really is all these emotions put together. And even though we're sitting in our living rooms or our bedrooms or game rooms and just sitting in front of a computer, you get the same feeling almost of being there, the feeling of just the competition and the camaraderie and the danger. It's all, the feeling is all there. And it's a long race, and one little lapse of concentration can end all of that work in just a few hundred feet.
And not necessarily only your race, but that innocent bystander. And let's be honest, if there's a crash at Indy, there is generally the innocent bystander who is going to get taken out, especially as close to the pack is going to be here today. So that all comes back to what you were saying earlier. And Chin, I'm sure, fighting for the championship, this is going to be playing on your mind. You've got to keep that nose clean. And, whilst you've got a good qualifying position, and arguably going to be ahead of a large part of the melee, does your mindset take into account the fact that you've got to think about the championship when things start going crazy around you?
I think so. I think at least in the first half, it definitely does, because you can't finish the race if you're wrecked out on lap 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. And you can't take those chances early like you would maybe later in the race when you know what's going to happen. Early in the race, you don't know what everyone else around you might have. they probably won't show their hand until later on in the race. And it's a lot easier if you just sit and ride for a little bit and figure out what's going on before you go completely nuts.
And at the same time, Paul, I mean, for some people, that might play into their mind when it comes to strategy. There are some people, they are just running a one-off race, for example, and they're not focused as much on the championship, and they just want to win Indy. So when it comes to things, you know, like that, do I pit, do I not pit, you might think about it in a slightly different way. Because for some people, they need to be in the right place at the right time, and it's too risky almost for them to try and get off sequence.
Oh, right, exactly. And, you know, again, a long race like this, you think about the good teams, the good drivers, they think about, okay, what am I going to do now to put myself in a position to be where I need to be at the end of the race? And you know, the story off the track, if you will, you know, in terms of strategy and trying to determine where everyone's going to make their stop, where everybody has their speed, whether it's early in the run, late in the run, you know, how the yellows fall. You know, the psychological game is so much a part of the physical, you know, the being on the track, being fast, being competitive. And this track more than any demands the whole package, and I think this is something that, especially when we get into the race and into the broadcast, is something you guys will be talking about a lot. Is okay, we're at this period of the race. What are these guys thinking about doing?
And Chin, I talked to you about this yesterday. It's that whole thing that you've got to count backwards. So you think the end of lap 160 when a caution comes out, and you've just got to start thinking, okay, if I do this now, then how is this going to feed into me getting to the end of the race? That mental and this is the thing, is a lot more complicated if, for example, you haven't got someone doing all the math and the calculations in the background to think about these things on the fly than people give people credit for.
Yeah, having someone there just to give you that reassurance on your strategy is huge. And a lot of your strategy in this race is going to come down to, do you think there's going to be yellow in the upcoming run? And then you plan around that. Because if I was to pit, say it's 20, 30 laps in, a caution comes out, I've just made my stop, I might be inclined to come in again. But if it's later on in the race, I know there's less people and it's a lot closer to the end, it might be a different strategy entirely. It really depends what point in the race on what you do.
Right, very quickly, we're going to talk to someone who's got the initials BT and isn't Brandon Trost. Thank fuck for that. Brandon Trainer, how was your day today?
It wasn't too bad. I got a, what is it, 6, I think I'm starting. It's not too bad.
Yeah, way to bump me down, buddy. Thanks a lot. Yeah, no, that's all right.
Hey, it wasn't on purpose.
No, good run,
Wasn't
Brendan.
on purpose. Thank you.
0.745 average. Very consistent laps, actually. If we have a look at the spread, fastest lap 39.695, slowest lap 39.787. So less than 1/10 of a second separates your 4 laps, which, considering the way the car evolves and changes over a run, you've got to kind of be happy with that consistency.
Oh, I was definitely happy with how the car turned out. Laps 2 and 3, I wasn't so happy with. I missed turn 1, and I'm sure everybody here can attest to that. If you miss turn 1 by the slightest bit, that entire lap is gone, and I managed to do that twice, so that kind of messed up the average. But other than that, I was pretty happy with how the car turned out.
And of course, this year you're running just this one race. You're going to be aggressive when it comes to play calling? You're going to just try and go for that victory, or is it going to be a case of getting what you can?
I'm definitely looking to take the victory, but to start out, I definitely think I'm just going to be conservative, right up front, take my time, and then hopefully be there at the end.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Brandon Traino for Broken Arrow. I almost said that you were an Aero X Racing driver. It's like, wow, I'm going back in the past. Brandon Traino for Broken Arrow Racing. But Jeff, we haven't really talked about you. I say you're starting in P8, 0.777 for lap average. And in fact, I think out of the top 10, you've got the smallest spread between your 4 laps. Remarkably consistent.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I think I botched up the first lap a little bit, but and it happens in real life too. You get so nervous when qualifying in Indy. It's the hardest 4 laps in racing, in all of racing. So, yeah, I got a little nervous on the first lap. And then once I got that mistake out of the way, I felt a lot more loose, a lot more ready for it. And I came back and I turned 3 solid laps after that.
Um, again, you're in the top 10, which I'm guessing takes a lot of pressure off of you because you are locked into the field in that position. You're good to go tomorrow, so all you need to do now is think about the race.
Yeah, we need to work out some race strategy. I'm gonna watch with my teammates who Dave said he isn't probably gonna go out tomorrow. I'm not sure what Todd's doing. Kerry, of course, like you said, is locked in. But yeah, we're gonna be going over some race strategy, what we want to do with that, and watch some bump day.
Watch some bump day. Bump day is going to be fascinating tomorrow. And Paul,
It will.
Jeff makes a very good point there about a couple of these drivers. Yes, you're not locked into the field if you're qualified in P15. However, no point in going out on that racetrack until you absolutely have to.
Well, and in the spirit of anything can happen, you have only 2 attempts to better your time, and with 16th Street, as soon as you take the green flag for your attempt, your time is wiped away. So there's no advantage to throwing away a time when you're not really risking. What I'm trying to say is, say for instance Todd goes out, he's P15 right now. He's solidly in the field. He's going to be in the show. With a 39.815, very respectable time. I really highly doubt that he is going to be threatened to be moved that much down the ladder. So really, in his mind, he's got to be thinking about, how much of an advantage is it going to be for me to go out and risk maybe making 3 or 4 spots up, maybe getting on the next 2 rows up or something like that, versus I'm in the show, I can just work on my race setup, relax, get my head in the game, and put together a strategy and just run the 400 miles and do my best where I'm at.
Well, we've seen this in ISOWC Indy qualifying before. Someone goes out, they want to get themselves, I don't know, let's say from P25, they think they've got a car to get themselves into the top 15, then they crash. And then on the outside, and they're looking in. And then that pressure that you relieve by getting yourself semi into the field comes back, but it comes back twofold because now you've got to get yourself back into the field, and you've only got a finite amount of opportunities to do that.
Right, absolutely, and you're looking at. I'm just kind of trying to count the number of drivers who are registered for this at this point. 59, I think is 60.
Gary Borkenhagen just signed up.
Okay, so we've got 60 drivers vying for 42 spots, I believe.
Precisely. So there are going to be some people who miss the cut. I mean, there are some people, though, who are on that kind of wiggly line. And there are a couple of people down this list who actually, when I look at the other side of the field, I do not expect to be there. Michael Chin is great when it comes to Indy normally. He is P37 in qualifying.
No relation, by the way.
Yeah, Michael Chin, I don't know what happened. He came out, the car was just very ill handling. Really, he's got to be extremely disappointed. Michael Chin, usually very, very fast here.
Same with Bud Weiser.
Yeah, we'll get to Bud here in a minute. But, I mean, it really just looked like he was never comfortable in the car, just could not put it where it needed to be, and the times just suffered horribly. So he's got to be thinking about that all night long. And here's a guy who's definitely, you're going to definitely see him put it out there. I don't think that a 40.208 is going to hold. I think we're going to see speeds that are going to exceed that. He's going to be out of the field relatively quickly. So you're going to see some guys at the bottom of the field. Obviously, I think Chin's going to run. Some other guys at the bottom, even guys P30, Ron Meyer Jr. with a 39.983. I really think that a 39.9 is what it's going to take to get into the field.
Yeah, and that, I mean, again, going back to ISOWC last year, we thought, okay, this is what's going to be the cutoff. But because people find speed overnight, then that cutoff comes down. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's 0.85. This time tomorrow, that you're gonna have to get into the field. And let's say Bud Weishart's in that list, and it does seem to be that it's teams who's either doing well or teams who are struggling. The notable exception there, though, Dave Jinks, qualifying right now in the 34th position. Now, of course, his teammate Brandon Traino is all the way up in the top 10. Jinx is having a horrible day, and he's normally not that bad at this track.
No, you expect a lot better out of Jinx. I think he just wasn't finding the groove. And Jeff had alluded to this, or rather, Brennan had alluded to this when he was talking about getting around this track, and the level of precision you need to get into turn one, especially just because you've got more speed going through there. It runs a little bit downhill. The turn in is a little bit blind. It's just one of those perfect storm sort of turns where you have to just point it at the corner and hope that you're in the right spot. But the precision required to get around that corner versus smacking the wall is so high that you can screw the car down and make it a little more forgiving. But if you do, you're not going to have the times. And we've seen a couple of guys that we were expecting to be very fast here put up some pretty disappointing times. Now this is going to be a factor for a couple of guys. And you were talking about Bud Weisert. And we look at the times that Bud put up. First lap 39.889, then 39.920, 39.985. Then the wheels come off and 42.50. I think that it looks like of all the guys around here who put up really kind of poor times, Bud is one of these guys I think that can actually has something to put together.
Yeah.
But when you talk about, if he can just get it cleanly around the track in the eights, I think he's going to be in the field and he has nothing to worry about. Marco Vitanen, another driver, P23, with a 39.995. But that third lap killed him, 40.018.
Yeah.
And again, precision for the full 4 laps here is demanded of you if you're going to hope to make the field. One bad lap and you find yourself suddenly way back in the field. David Sockrater, another one. But there's guys too that we're looking at that are going to struggle. Ron Meyer in the 40s, 39.983, he's 30th.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that. It does seem to talk about some teams doing well, some teams doing badly. It does seem to be the Last Lap Motorsport stable is struggling here, big time. And also the Team Velociraptor guys, some of them are struggling a little bit here as well.
And you're going to see some teams that are... I'm sorry, go ahead, Josh.
They definitely have not found any pace, either last lap or Velociraptor. It's almost kind of odd to see because usually they're somewhat up there, but this week has just been a total struggle.
Oh, no, it's me talking again. Marco, I'm a little bit surprised about. He's historically been good at Indy. However, knowing him very well, being former teammates with him, I know that he has to have a setup dialed very differently to the way that, for example, his teammates would, or in fact, his standard setup would be. He drives a very different, hard steering setup, and he has to feel every bump in that car. So I think you'll see something better from him. And you're right, I think that there are some guys who tonight are going to do a lot of head scratching and a lot of testing to get themselves into the field. Very quickly, I'm going to talk to Tim Holgate. Tim, I'm guessing that, you didn't get pole position, but you're ahead of the 2 people in the championship that you need to think about. Ground control to Tim Holgate.
Yeah, I think he's watching the Colts game. Slacking off here.
Ground control to Tim Holgate.
There we go. The buttons don't work on the wheel unless you have the power on. They tell me that in the car all the time.
You heard the question, right?
Yes, it did. You can't have any complaints when you're starting ahead of the guys you're battling with. Kind of wanted to go for pole. Was a little bit upset that I didn't find what we found later on in the day in my first run, because that was kind of it would have been, I think it was good enough for fourth, which you can't complain about. But we found a couple more hundredths that we were missing later on in the day, but at that point I already used a run, so I went with a very conservative version of the setup so that I could make sure that I didn't touch the wall, and that's where it put us. Which and at the time I was provisional pole, and then I think Martin came in and just did that dominating first lap. And after that, Mitch, just had good consistent pace in his second stint. Kind of a little disappointed we couldn't get the extra points because I think every point we can get is going to be useful. But looking forward to the race tomorrow, particularly where we're starting.
Now, you have a look at the qualifying speeds as well. Very close between not only yourself and the guys ahead of you, but between yourself, Cook, and Chin as well. Is that going to be playing on your mind when it comes to the race tomorrow, knowing that your competition are right there with you? Of course, yes, qualifying is one thing, racing's another, but these guys, generally are very close to you in race pace when they're close to you in qualifying, and it seems to be this is going to be the case once again.
Yeah, I had a chance to run in practice with Matt the other day, and we were very evenly matched in those conditions. The qualifying setups I think are so vastly different from the race setups that it's hard to draw any conclusions on who's fast and who's not. I really didn't spend a whole lot of time on qualifying setup, and it showed in my first run. And I think we got lucky to get placed where we were. So we've been working on the race setup, primarily trying to figure out how it's going to handle in traffic and make it to the end and then be fast at the end, which is, that crossing the bricks is what matters. So
crossing the bricks. What is your game plan for tomorrow without giving anything away?
Safest places at the front, safest places at the front, safest places at the front.
I didn't catch that. Was that the front?
I thought he said
The
back.
very front.
Well, yeah.
To the front.
The front. Thanks very much, Tim. We'll talk to you again tomorrow, hopefully, in our pre-race coverage. Tim Holgate. And, of course, the points that you get there as well, valuable in that championship battle, because really, this season, every point is counting.
Well, and that's a unique thing about this particular qualifying session is it's a race in and of itself because, of course, this qualifying session awards points to the championship. First place awarding 15 points, second 13, third 12, and so on, awarding points all the way to 33rd place. So, there is this does actually play a part before even we get lap 1 done in the books for the Indy 400. There's already a points race going on, so very interesting to talk about how this plays out in the points game in terms of how many points are going to be scored. Of course, we can talk about the top 9 now, and we'll have to hold off until bump day for the last, the remainder of the field, the last 23. But Tim with the third place, it's going to help him kind of maintain. Of course, Matt's got fourth place, so that helps. That helps Tim just a little bit because, of course, right now they're 1 point off. So technically speaking, at this point, they're tied.
And again, every point counts. You reset it now. We're at Indy. It's going to be the race point as far as championship goes. Hit the reset button. And as I said about 15 minutes ago, your season can be made or lost at Indy. Randy, very quickly, we're going to have a chat with you. You're not locked into the field, but barring any major headaches tomorrow, you are going to be racing.
Yeah, and with unless 10 guys happen to qualify faster than me, I'm fairly certain I'm not going to take it back out on the track tomorrow and just get ready for the race.
Now, your 4 laps, pretty consistent, within pretty much half a tenth of a second. So consistency really good there. Lacking a little bit speed-wise compared to Matt Cook, but was it just a case of getting the run in the books?
Yeah, it was. I was, quasi-comfortable with it. I was a bit surprised that we were on the track. That to me is definitely different. And because when we went back, I was going to make a second run today, but just ran out of time because we changed a couple things due to the different track, and it really helped and had a pretty good average. So I was hoping I could have got back in, but I didn't. So, I'll start 10th or 15th or wherever and be happy because it's going to be a lot of fun tomorrow.
It is going to be a lot of fun, and of course, you have performed well in big race Indy situations, and also you've got a lot of experience under your belt running in, previously in 16th Street Racing League, Indy competition, ISOWC Indy competition, iRacing World Tour competition, so you know how to survive the big races. Is it that experience going to be useful come, those last 60 laps of the race?
I think so, and you just said the key thing, the last part of the race. I mean, it's just a matter of logging laps and give and take until we get to the last pit stop or so, and then it'll be time to really race, and we'll see what happens. I hope I'll be there.
Well, we'll talk to you again tomorrow. You might probably even be around for the happy hour session. Who knows? Very quickly before we wrap this up, Josh, there are a couple of people who really, not locked into the field, but some very good qualifying times. I'm thinking about Niles Anders, for example. He's had a very tough season to date. Qualified in P11 provisionally. And I think for Niles and also Nefri, because he's had a little bit of bad luck recently, those runs and that qualifying position is going to be immensely satisfying for them.
Yeah, I know Panther was talking earlier in the week about not having a ton of success at Indy lately, especially in 16th Street. So it'll be interesting to see how they do in this race. There's a lot of potential for good for them in this race. You don't have to have the fastest car to win this. You just have to be there at the end mainly and see what happens. And I think that's something that a lot of the Panther guys can do.
Right. Biggest surprise of the day, Paul. Positive and negative.
Okay. Positive. Off the top of my head, I'm still, like I said before, I'm impressed with Kerry's run. Considering how much bad luck he's had lately and the speeds he's shown, to come out here and lay down a 39.781 is a statement and shows that, hey, I really can drive this car and I do have the skills for this. And, nobody ever doubted that Kerry could drive, but I think maybe he kind of started doubting himself a little bit. Biggest disappointment, Tim Doyle crashed on both his attempts and does not put in a time yet. That was a surprise.
It is, from a driver, Josh, from a driver like Tim Doyle, normally incredibly consistent. You have a look at his safety rating record, for example. You don't see incidents normally, and to have that happen to him, I mean, that car really must not have been handling for him at all today.
Yeah, both him and Courtney Terrell were just slow. They didn't have the pace that they normally do, and I'm not really sure what was going on there.
And it's a surprise as well for Courtney, because Courtney, of course, I said this a little bit earlier on, this is the track where he had the heartbreak. Last year, Courtney was being awesome until that last lap restart.
Yeah, it's really odd. I honestly don't know what to say about it. It's just one of those things that you would never expect to happen, and here we are sitting and talk about it.
A couple of other people didn't get what they needed to. John Porzek didn't get what he needed to today. Matt Lamberton not in the field. Tim Doyle not in the field. And there's a couple of other people up and down as well who are really going to have to do a lot. Don't forget, by the way, tomorrow we'll be on air at, what time is it? 5 p.m. Eastern time for our happy hour coverage. And then it's an early start time of 6:30 p.m. Eastern time on iRacing Brazil, when myself, Aaron Likens, and Andrew King will be joined by many, many friends, and we'll be giving you the actual lowdown for one of the most important sim races of the year if you're an IndyCar fan. And, Paul, again, it's easily top 5 of any race in sim racing that you want to win of IndyCars all year.
Well, the feeling of winning at Indy, and it really doesn't matter, 16th Street, ISOWC, even the World Tour events, the pure accomplishment and pride of having finished, not only finished, but finished first in such a race as this. It's just a special thing. It really is. Even though, again, it's a simulation, but to the drivers driving it, it feels as if you're there. The pride is there, and it's really just a great accomplishment to finish this race and finish well.
Your first part of that sentence, I think everyone will be thinking of when they line up on that grid tomorrow, Jim. To finish.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing here. it is 400 miles of just grueling it out and waiting for the finish. And if you can be there and have a shot at the end, you've run a good race. And whatever happens in the last 20, 30 laps happens, but you know that up to that point, you ran the best that you could.
Well, we'll be back. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I've got to put on the porn music. We'll do this in one take today, I promise.
So he says.
Weird meets funny music cider rice. Why are we splitting hairs?
So, we'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, for the Will and Dave Show, perhaps even with Dave Judson. Happy Hour Bump Day special. Don't think Dave's going to have to run again tomorrow, so he can be there for the entire hour. Chin, you going to be about?
Yeah, I think I should be. I won't be in Ohio.
Paul, you going to be about?
Yeah, I don't think I have anything to do in terms of having to worry about qualifying, so I like where I'm at, so I'll be there.
So, that'll be 5 p.m. Eastern. That'll be on GlacierTV. Hey, bye. And then, of course, 6:30 p.m. on iRacing Brazil. Join myself, Aaron Likens, and Andrew King for the 2014 16 Street Racing League Indianapolis 400, powered by iRaceforlife.org. iRaceforlife.org, the presenting sponsor of the 16 Street Racing League Oval Championship. Thanks so much, guys. We are done.
It's okay, we're Americans!
Can someone say the Dave Judson of all my podcast bit?
Not
Of all
at
the
all.
broadcasts, Dave Judson's last one was his most recent.